Please use their microphones for the sake of the audience and for the stenographer. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, that better? Okay. Okay, so motion passes 4-0 for the minutes. First item up on the agenda. Actually, let's talk about the folks who are here. We are missing one person, but we have a board of 5, so we'll all be voting on here tonight. So the first item on the agenda is Verone, Plat N-S, Lot 294, 105 Camden Road. Mr. Callahan.
Hello, Mr. Brunetti, members of the board. Thank you for your time tonight. James Callahan of Callahan & Callahan, 3 Brown Street in Wickford. Here tonight on behalf of Robert and Leslie Verone to my left. Also with us is Amy Sonder of Easterbrook Associates. She will be here, I promise. And Gail Sir Hollick, architect. The subject property is 105 Camden Road in Bonnet Shores. Bob and Leslie have owned the property since 2005. Their main residence is in East Greenwich at this moment, but they're seeking to make Narragansett their permanent home, and this is the spot they would like to do that in. Bob and Leslie have 2 adult children. 105 Camden Road abuts West Quaig Pond and is obviously on Camden. Notably, to the north is Branch Road, which is in green in your photograph up there, and that is a paper street. And Bob and Leslie did explore the opportunity or the option of trying to have that road abandoned or purchase it, but that just isn't a possibility at this time in Narragansett due to a variety of factors. Plus, Bonnet Shores, I don't think is in the position to abandon roads as far as I can tell. So in any event, the lot in total is about 9,900 square feet, but that is the gross area. The buildable or suitable net area is 7,005 square feet. And we'll talk about that in more depth later with Amy. When you consider the project, we're asking you to take a long look at the shape of the lot. It's obviously long from east to west. And again, significantly to the north is the paper street and I think protected land to the northwest. But in any event, the requests we're making here we think are somewhat minimal based on the size of the structure itself. It is one of those houses that has a carport on the first floor with no living space, second floor, and a third floor. In total, the square footage of the house and each floor is about 900 square feet, so obviously that's not an extraordinary amount. And right now, the second floor or first area of living includes a washer, dryer, closet, 3 bedrooms, 2 of the bedrooms share a bathroom, and the primary bedroom also has a bathroom. The top floor, which is the living area, is one open space and encompasses the living, dining, and kitchen area all in one. So there's really no space for the family to spend any time unless they're basically sitting in each other's laps. It's one of those houses that just doesn't have much width or depth. It just kind of goes straight up. So while Bob and Leslie have a loving marriage, they don't want to be together on top of each other at all times. And again, they want to move here full-time and sell their house in East Greenwich. They'd like to be Narragansett residents, which I think is a positive thing these days. And they just don't have enough room at this moment for that to happen. The proposal here is, I think, again, somewhat limited, but it will make a big difference to Bob and Leslie. The carport first floor area will remain the same, basically. The second floor will have 2 bedrooms, a family room, and an office space with a deck to the west toward West Quaig Pond. The top floor will have a primary bedroom, a bathroom, a kitchen, living room, and dining room in one space. And again, that'll allow the Verones to have some space to be together but separate in some respect. The relief we need is, again, somewhat limited. The setback request to the north, which is the right side of the house when you face the house, is 6.58 feet. And we think that request is somewhat limited because of the paper street. There's really nobody, it doesn't affect anybody on that side of the street. I know one of the neighbors, Mr. Caldwell's here. He lives across the street. We hope that doesn't impact his view at all. We don't think it does. But again, this is on the Verone property. We're also asking for a 4.6-inch, 4'6" height variance, and notably, we think that is limited because if this was just the relief we're asking for, that would be within the 15% modification allowed by state statute, and Mr. Pimentel could potentially approve that. But since we're asking for other relief, we can't do that here. So we're also asking for a lot coverage relief of 4%, which is 350 square feet, and special use permits for the overlay districts for the coastal, or West Quig Pond anyway. And probably most significantly, we're asking for a FAR variance, which you know the board's probably reluctant to grant, but again, it's only 510 square feet, so I think it encompasses about as much space in front of me between us. So overall, I think these requests are, again, limited due to the shape of the lot and will have no effect on the general character of the area, and I hope will be an asset because the Verones will be living there. Bob's a dentist, Leslie's in real estate. They'd be nice additions to the community. And again, these improvements aren't meant to increase the value. They're not meant to increase the rental aspect of this property, if any. They're just to allow the Verones to have a comfortable space to live in Narragansett, in Bonnet Shores, which is very desirable. So we've been through this process with Amy, Gail, and Bob and Lizzie for a number of years. We're finally before you tonight. We asked for a continuance last month to allow the 2024 standards to be used. I know that has a double-edged sword in a way, but that's why we're here tonight. And with that, I'd ask Amy here?
Oh, Amy.
Amy's not here yet? Okay.
Actually, before,
A few minutes? All right, we'll ask Gail to come up first, and we just
before you do,
go through a few items. Sure.
I understand that the front yard variance setback has been,
We don't
is
think
no
we-
longer
I don't-
required?
I don't think we need that. It's not even a requirement anymore, I don't believe.
Well, hang on. Let's let staff respond.
Yes, that's correct. In conversation with the building official, the stairs right here where the hand is, those are existing, and they will not be, they won't be new construction, so they can hold that.
So that removes the front yards.
Yeah, that removes the front yard setback.
Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Callahan. And,
We'll go with Amy first, thank you.
okay, you got it.
Dramatic entrance.
Nice of you to join us. Jump right in. Hi.
Just before Amy starts, I asked she be qualified as an expert in land surveying for the purpose of this hearing based on her testimony in the past.
No problem. For the purposes of this hearing, Ms. Sander will be identified as an expert witness in.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
So one thing I want to make sure is that everybody has the latest site plan. They do? Great. Oh, and there we have it there. So I will point out first that this is a substandard lot, and that we have a wetland feature to the northwest, which is West Quig Pond. The house has been existing since 1998, 95, thank you. And they did get approvals from Coastal for the home, and we had a buffer management implemented onto the site, and I think you have part of that as well, a copy of the preliminary determination from Coastal Resources. So one of the things we did with this project is maintain that buffer and not impose on the restrictions that were imposed in 2005. You can see that with the wetland line, the 25-foot vegetative buffer zone, and then there was a lawn area that was allowed to be mowed and used, but no structures. We haven't disturbed that area with the proposal. One of the recommendations was the rain garden with the addition to the structure. It's not required by the town, but it would likely be required by Coastal Resources if we were going over 50% of the roofed area, which we're close, so I'm showing a rain garden just in case. During the planning board hearing, they recommended, or per the preliminary determination, asked if we could pull the rain garden close to the site, which I've done, and that's part of this last plan. As you can see, we're requesting relief on the right side setback. We no longer require relief on the front setback. I know that's stated in the staff report, but because we're not getting any closer than the structure already is, that should not require any relief. And then we are, although we're outside of the 50-foot setback that's required by Coastal Resources, we are in the coastal resource and coastal freshwater wetland overlay district, and we would require relief from that. But as I said, we're not imposing on the 50-foot required setback from the coastal resource management. I don't know, do you want me to go over the building, the height and things like that as well? So if you look at the architecturals, which I don't know, I brought copies of that as well. And I don't know if you have the latest plans on those. Yes, so I brought a couple of copies of those. So they are dated and it's minor changes that you would note on that, but I have two copies. But the architecturals, Ryan, that we submitted earlier are pretty adequate as far as height. So there's one elevation, oh, there it is, and we are exceeding the 30-foot height, but we're not going any further, any higher than the 15% that would likely be allowed per modification permit. So back to the old height of 35, we will be maintaining a height of 34.5 feet with the new structure. And if you look at sheet, Gail can go into this more, but at sheet A201, which I have a copy of here if you'd like. It's a minor increase in the height that allows to maintain the roof pitch with the addition. And Gail Hallett can explain that a little more in the architectural. So that would be the height relief, but as I said, that would come under a modification. And then we are going over on the FAR for the floor area ratio for this area. As I mentioned, this lot is a substandard lot, and with the wetlands, we've been reduced down to 7,000 square foot of net area. So it substantially reduces the square footage allowed under the FAR. I will say that when I first started talking to the Verones, I'm pretty sure it was prior to COVID, and before all of these regulations came in, and we had started planning back then, and I initiated a site plan. So we've been modifying every time they actually come to me, we're modifying again and again and again. So we were trying to keep under the former regulations, but now we've come back with the best we can do to make it comply and allow the Verones some places to live, or a place to live as their permanent residents. I don't know if James got into that. The other areas that I think we're asking for relief on don't miss anything. I went over that, the special use permit for the coastal resource overlay and the coastal freshwater wetland overlay. Front setback is no longer required. The side setback, as I mentioned, we are imposing on that. We cannot accommodate the 15%. The house is positioned where it is, and because this is in the flood zone, right now they enter the home from an exterior staircase. They would like an interior staircase, and they would like to put on an elevator. And the only place to put that is on the northerly side of the building. So we've kept that as tight as possible to reduce that setback or request for relief. And at this point, we're at 5.7 feet off the property line. They did reach out to Bonnet Shores at one point in time to try and abandon Branch Road, but Bonnet Shores is trying to maintain these right-of-ways for conservation and open space. So that was not a viable option. If we were able to do that, we would split Branch Road down the middle. 50% would go toward the Verones, and the 50% would go to Lot 293 on the north, and we wouldn't require any setbacks. One of the things we could possibly accommodate is no structures be built on that side if there was a concern about the reduced setback. For example, a fence, like a 6-foot fence to prohibit any fire access or something like that.
Can you run that by me again?
So I think we have a side setback for 2-story structures. They would like us to have an 8-foot setback. Or is that another town? No. No, that's this town. It is this town, yeah. So if that was a concern, the fire access, because it's a paper street, nobody's going to be there. I actually brought some pictures so you can see. I don't know if people went to the site, but I brought 2 pictures. Here's the paper street is right in between those 2 homes there. So there's no structures there now, no fences now, and that would be a consideration, is to prohibit any fences along the property line there at the house.
So you would entertain that as a condition? Is that what you're telling me?
I would think that would be,
Okay,
yeah.
that was a concern I had, so
Yeah.
thank you. That was a concern I had. The fire access to
A
the safety,
concern you
that's a
had.
concern I had.
We did, right now, we are going over on the FAR. We are close to the 15%, but not quite
Not
enough. I
there.
think we still are looking for another 126 square feet to comply with the 15%, but we've done a lot of nipping and tucking, and this is the best option we have. But again, I'll let Gail go into that. And I think I've covered all of the relief.
Amy, I don't think you addressed lot coverage.
Oh, yeah. So, back and forth on lot coverage. So at one point, we were using the gross area of the parcel for lot coverage. Now we're back down to using the net area for lot coverage. So that was something that I did review. And the latest plan that is up here, I'm not sure if you have it in your file, I modified that lot coverage area. And we are over by 22% is allowed and that would be the net area of 7,000 square feet as opposed to the full lot of 9,900 square feet. But as it stands now, it says here that we're over by 350 square feet, and then the 15% would put us at 1773, and again, we would still require relief of 118 if we couldn't comply with the modification permit, and that's why we're here. So it's another 118 square feet
Okay,
over the 15%.
I understand. So a total of
So
5.
I did put
total of
that,
5.
yeah, I try now to put it on the table now. I'll put the 5 and 15 so everybody can look at that. And if you don't have does everybody have a full size of this now? Just in
I think so.
case.
Dated December 8th, 28th?
No, the revision, yeah, 8-9, right there.
8, 9, got it.
So, yeah, it's, we want to get it in before something else changes.
Good luck with that.
Anything else you'd like me to address? Okay.
Questions from
Do
the
you want to
side?
mark these as exhibits?
I've submitted them to the town, they are on file, so it should be good. The pictures, possibly, yes. Those are not on file.
Is there more than one picture?
Any questions
I
from,
only have one.
any questions from the board for Amy?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The new floor plans are also not a part of your file.
Oh,
We don't-
and
we
I
don't
can
have
give
those.
you a full set of those too.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah. So the floor plan, Heidi. Applicants, one?
Applicants one, right?
Site plan, I'm sorry.
I'm going to keep one here for Gail, but at the end of the meeting, I'll give you a full set of what I have,
Thank you.
all right?
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Amy,
may I
the,
ask a question?
We'll do one.
Amy, the right side yard setback variance, 6.58 feet,
Yes,
that is only impacting this paper road,
correct,
correct?
right.
So
As-
there's-
And you look at that picture, it's open between the two
grass.
lots, yeah. It's just a grass mowed area. And I'm not sure who mows it, but I think it's between the two property owners there.
Helen?
I just have a question
Sure.
on the, do you guys have all of these things that are coming in now, all the different plans, and have you reviewed them for this project summary that you've done, or?
We haven't
picture
reviewed the new floor and
of this
elevation
paper
plans. We
street is
were in
applicants
receipt of
exhibit
the
2.
new site plan that you guys have in front of you, but those, we didn't take that into consideration in the application. It came in after your packets were delivered.
Does staff need time to review?
I think they do, but let's get
Okay,
through the,
All right.
let's get through the presentation, and we'll go from there. Thank you. So, any further questions for Amy? Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to ask Gail Hollick to come up and talk about the design.
Hi. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name.
Gail Hallock, Hallock, Cyr, C-Y-R.
Thank you.
And as with Ms. Sandra, I believe Ms. Hollick has testified before in the past, is expert in architecture. Thank you.
Hi. So, everybody has eloquently stated what we'd like to do. Yes, thank you. Actually, I'd like to look at the floor plans first, if I could start with the, yeah. So, this house, there is, I don't think this reaches that far. You have a better.
There you go. Yep.
There it is. Okay, so this right here is the existing house. And the addition that we have proposed is right here. And as you can see, that is for vertical access to the first floor in the case of the stairs and the elevator in the case of the, that would go all the way to the top stairs. We've removed some existing stairs. I hope I don't hit you in the eye with this, but we've removed some existing stairs here, and we have created a new set of stairs that has a nicer front porch and incorporates this little side addition. We've also put an addition on the back here, which is actually to accommodate the family room areas up above. So could I have this next floor up, please? Okay, so as you can see, this red area here is that front porch. That's the front door. These are the stairs that are coming up to the first floor only. Existing stairs from the garage to the house, there are none of. The only stairs from the garage level to the house at this point are the ones that were outside. So they'd like to be able to go inside from the garage up to the second floor. They also would like to have an elevator. So this is the elevator that we've placed, and that creates a central hall. Right now, there's a couple of bedrooms here. They have a bathroom in the middle. We've expanded those and created a bathroom over here. That gives us 2 bedrooms. And then this is sort of the kids' area and a little hideaway for an office for Bob and Leslie. So that's, this addition here, it is sort of the minimal size for a room to make it a pleasant depth. I think it's 12 feet. And then off of that is a deck. Again, that's another minimal size that we have for that rear deck. So not only are we trying to limit the side increase here, but we're also trying to limit the increase toward the water of both the addition and the deck, and making better use of the existing first floor, which is that gray area. May I have the next floor up, please?
Oh, hang on one second. So
Sure.
2 questions. Ellen, you can go first.
Okay, so I have a question. I think I know what I'm doing here. These stairs here.
Yes.
These are the stairs that I think people said initially you needed the front yard setback variance for, but because they were not being changed or constructed, you no longer need the setback, but you just said that you are redoing them and making them new and covering them and
Do you
all
mind
that
it-
stuff. So I think
Yeah.
you do need the setback, the front yard setback variance now?
Amy will explain.
So what happens is So because the stairs are there now, we're grandfathered by that, and we're not getting any closer than what those stairs are. We're actually getting a foot further away. So generally, if you're grandfathered by what the setback is existing on the structure. So we could go to that step now and rebuild them there, but we're putting them actually a foot further away from the street.
This lower line here is the line of the existing stairs.
So it'll be set back further by a foot. So and Wayne maybe can answer this, but if you have a setback that's non-conforming, you're allowed to maintain that on a structure, unless you demolish a home.
Staff? A little input, please?
Yeah, you are allowed to, if they get demolished and they get rebuilt, then they would have to conform. But there is a section in the ordinance that allows the main entry stair that's required by the building code to be exempt from setback. That typically would be 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep for a landing, and then whatever associated stairs at that 3-foot width would be exempt. But there's nothing like that specifies something being grandfathered if you rebuild it and then shorten it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was specific to the actual structure. I thought the setback was specific to on the site and attached to the building. So if you're reconfiguring, and you had I would be able to extend those stairs theoretically across the front and maintain that setback, correct? If it was already there and setback less than the required setback?
If you're talking about if it met the setback?
You would, but I think what Ellen's getting to and what
I know
I
what you're
agree with is you're demolishing the stairs and you're rebuild, it sounds like, maybe, and I believe this is the question, is it sounds like you're removing the stairs and rebuilding them with new stairs,
Yes, that's the plan.
which I think would then require the setback, because it's a nonconformity, which you're eliminating and then rebuilding. At least I believe so.
Okay.
But I don't want
I
to,
thought the demolition was with the entire structure,
no.
myself.
Yeah, no, because you could have a nonconformity that gets demolished, a deck, say, and
Yeah,
the whole.
we've had
thing
decks
remains.
Correct.
before like that.
So we would have the option, if we wanted to, of just maintaining that setback and expanding the stairs to the other, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, what Ellen was saying is because what you're saying is that new stairs are being put in, the old stairs are being, then that would require that relief to be requested. Is that correct? Yeah.
And I would just want to say, if you maintain 3 feet wide on those stairs, then they would be exempt.
They're actually a little bit over 3 feet.
Yeah.
I usually make them a little more generous.
The
I have them
back-
at
oh,
three, I think it is, 3.
Yeah, it doesn't say here, but yeah. They're smaller than the stairs that are there.
Yeah, they are. They actually are.
But that, we can, you know, we can leave that in and request that relief and then have the option to pull them back, so.
Yeah, I could figure out a way to certainly take, thank you.
You're welcome.
I could certainly figure out a way to take that and keep the original stairs. It just wouldn't look as attractive, I guess, as, and there is a functional aspect to that. If you could go to the second floor, because right now, the original front door is over to the left of that red space where the front porch is, and we're trying to relocate all of the sort of function of entry to in front of the elevator at the top of the stairs. So with a larger porch. So that's the reason for that design.
Wayne, do we have new information, or are you all set? You're all set? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Second floor.
Oh, I thought there was another question.
I'm sorry, there is.
Yeah.
So involved in that. The family room, this is still the first floor that we're looking at now, or this is the second floor?
This is the lower floor.
lowest floor,
So
okay.
I call it I call it ground floor, first floor, and then second floor.
Okay.
So this is the first floor, so that's,
Okay, so go back to the ground floor.
yes.
I can't read it from here. So what is that top level? What was the family room above? What is this now?
This is a storage space.
Storage area, okay.
This is all within the flood zone, so they can't use it.
Understood.
So it's nothing. It's just
Okay.
kind of, we enclosed it because it has buildings above it, so it's not meant to be.
You've answered my question. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so can we go one floor up? Okay, so now this floor has the master bedroom with its attendant walk-in closet and a nicer bath and a laundry and then a lavette. And then the rest of that area, the gray area and the red area in the L shape have been turned into a dining area, kitchen, and living area. Again, this is directly above the family room below, and there is a deck off of that. Both of those have been kept a minimum depth so that, you know, we don't extend. We also have that constraint of the CRMC setback, so there was a front, you know, there's constraints on all sides of this project. So in order for them to be able to enjoy, you know, living here full-time, they need a decent-sized kitchen, a decent-sized living area that's away from where the kids are, and a dining area. So all of that has been added on it, as well as a nicer master bedroom area.
Gail, I'm sorry, what are with this light in here, I'm having a real hard time reading the plans. What are the dimensions of that living, dining area?
Okay, so the first floor, it's 12 foot deep. So that's kind of, to me, a minimum size for a room, especially a long, narrow room, when you make it narrower, it starts to get to be hall-like rather than living room-like and harder. I believe they're going to put a pool table here and some other recreational, some pool table, but they need a certain size for that. But it's also, for me, it's just the minimum size of a living room as opposed to a bedroom. Bedrooms can be smaller, but living rooms really need to have a certain amount of depth to fit the closet, or the couches and all of that stuff. So that's 12 feet, and the deck is, let me just get up to that floor. Oh, it's not even 8, it's 7 foot 7 and a half. So again, that's a really not a very deep deck that goes on upstairs. And directly above it, of course, on the second floor, is that same space, because we're holding the line of the existing house here, and then adding something that's a decent depth for a living room area, dining room area here, and then a kitchen that kind of stretches between them. Here's the elevator, we've got a pantry, and a utility closet for the heating, because of course that can't go down in the flood zone, so we have to put it somewhere. And then these are the old stairs that came only from the first floor to the second floor. So these have been maintained, and then the master bedroom area is put into that old part of the house.
Okay, and
So the staff recommended that the deck and/or additional footprint be reduced in size to comply with the lot coverage requirements, which I think is, the variance is 350 square feet. Lot coverage. Can you just, I mean, I think you've kind of just addressed it, right? You said 12 feet is kind of the minimum as far as the footprint on the structure itself. And what'd you say, 7, 7?
Yes, 7 and a half.
Okay. What would you need to do in order to make it compliant? I mean, how?
350 square feet?
Yeah.
I have to actually kind of, so that would be lot coverage.
Well,
Yeah.
I did talk about that a little bit earlier. So because it's a two-story dwelling, and if we were trying to maintain the 15% that we would likely get approved under a modification, I think we're only over on the FAR by 126 square feet. So in 2 stories.
That's 12 by 10.
So you would have
So
to
it'd
take
be
off about
6
two
by-
and a
6
half
by-
feet,
yeah,
something
right.
like that,
Yeah.
off the back.
Yeah.
Whether it be off, because it doesn't matter whether it's the deck or the house. Oh, well, no, it does, sorry. It has to be off your house.
That's right.
I was looking at it for coverage, that we could actually get both of those, but the same difference with the house, yeah. But maybe they could pick it up with the deck, so.
Right, so the coverage is not the same as the FAR, so
Right.
that would be only 1 story, or, 1 footprint. So is it 350 that we have to reduce it?
I was, excuse me, 350 total, but if we included the 15%, I was trying to keep things as close to the modification, because that's going back to the previous regulations and
Right,
kind of what we had been starting at here, so.
so it was 126?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or bulk, I did that
Somewhere
off
around
the cuff, yeah.
okay, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, just asking.
So if
Just
you
asking
needed,
Chris if he got the answer for it.
so that's lot coverage 126, or that's FAR?
That's FAR, so that would be, half of that would be then 60-something, so 62, say. So that'd be a 6 by 10.
But that's not complying with the complete FAR. As
Yeah.
I said, we were trying to
Right.
maintain the 15%.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to comply with the complete FAR,
It's 3, where's the FAR? 500, what was it? 541. Oh, no, it isn't,
No,
sorry.
that's the
No.
new, yeah. So the
I'll tell you when.
28, yeah, 2869, 2869, somewhere around there, is the proportional, the FAR allowed is
2415 would be allowed by the 15% modification.
The project summary said 510 on the FAR. I don't know. if
That would be, the 510 is the full
Full, right,
compliance,
right.
right? And then with the FAR would be.
Yeah, so we've got, if it was 2415 allowed for the full, if that was the 15% modification was allowed,
I
we're,
blew these up so you can read them.
thank you, thank you. All right, so with that modification, we are at 2889, so we're at, so that's,
2415,
yeah, 2415, so that is probably about,
for something.
yeah, 439, 440, for the difference between the allowed FAR and if the 15% modification went into effect. So we have to reduce it by the 449, right?
To be in compliance,
Yeah,
100%.
which is actually kind of significant.
Right, so if you were to do that,
Yeah.
you'd have to take it off the back of the house, right?
Right, which would make it narrow.
How many feet?
So, I need a calculator.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Yeah, pretty much.
It's basically the whole addition?
Yeah,
Okay.
13 and a half feet, so. only a 12 inch.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I guess my other question goes to lot coverage. And that would mean you'd have to reduce the deck, I believe, right?
Yeah, the lot coverage, I mean, as I said, substandard lot of record, they're going by the net area of 7,000 square feet as opposed to approximately 10,000 square feet. The site is existing with the buffers already being imposed that we're maintaining. Impervious, or pervious driveways, and the deck is pervious. But yes, it's included in the lot coverage. So I would like to try and maintain something closer to the 15%. And if we did do any reduction, I think the, I think I said 126, 33.5. Actually, that's 3.7 feet.
Yeah.
Just regarding the lot coverage, make one small point. This lot is almost 9,900 square feet. We're being reduced to 7,005 square feet of buildable lot coverage. But by doing that, we're not getting the advantage of the substandard lot that's allowed by statute in 2024. And I don't know if that's something the staff's considered, but I don't think it's really fair that we don't get the statutory increase based on the substandard lot when we're being assessed on net buildable coverage. It doesn't seem to be quite fair. Either we get the 9,900 square foot lot coverage, or whatever that is, or we get 7,005 increased by the substandard lot ratio. It's just a point I'd like to make.
Understood.
Can you help us out with that, Steve?
Two things. One is, you're not, you have to review this under the law, not what may or may not be fair. Second thing is, that there are two separate issues. One is, the substandard lot reduction in this case would only be less than 1% because it's a 10, R10, you know, it's a 0.02%, where the reduction has to do with really the net lot area, which is 3,000 square feet. Like, they're two entirely separate issues.
So let me throw a little in there too. So,
Sure.
Chris, for the dimensions of the deck and the dimensions of that room, I'd have to agree, they're pretty minimal to start. So as we start pulling things back, we're changing the livability of that room. And I have to agree with council, the net of 7,000 is a fairly small lot. So this just my opinion coming out here, is a fairly small lot. So I'm jumping ahead to the question of hardship, but it's more of the lot size and restrictions than something that these folks have done with the design of the house. I think, to me, the house looks as minimal as we can get at it. But again, just my opinion on it.
It is. I agree. Everybody needs a kitchen, everybody needs a living room, everybody needs, a dining room and common living space, and this house already was a very small house, and they obviously didn't have it in the initial house, especially with the second floor of that house having a gable roof for a large part of it, and actually very low dormer, so that the second floor of the existing house was already simply a living space. It wasn't, it wasn't big enough to contain a master bedroom, a bathroom, and walk-in closet, let alone, then continuing with the kitchen and the living room in that space. It was already very small. So when we needed to expand that house, we had to, find a way to accommodate these kind of normal living spaces that most full-time residences have, which is, a decent-sized kitchen and a decent-sized space to enjoy time with your friends, and then a decent-sized space for the kids to do something, and big enough bedrooms for everybody. So these spaces are what we think is minimal, and a deck of 7.5 feet is actually pretty small. You're going to put a few chairs in a row and then have people walk in front of it. It's not enough room for a table, to sit at with everybody going, it's kind of small. So we did try very hard. We, kept everything as small as we could for this edition.
I think the only other thing that I would ask you to address is the height variance.
Okay, so if we could have that elevation. Now, with this, so this is the original house shape here, and it also has an original dormer here that creates height on one side. This is the dormer on the other side, which didn't really create height, just gave a little bit of headroom for something, I'm not sure. But at any rate, we thought it would be useful to continue this dormer up at the same slope to a peak. The house now is wider there because if we could go back to the floor plan, I'm sorry. So this peak goes from here, which is where the original dormer was, to this side here, and that's a wider expanse. So when you have a gable that goes another, a few feet more, it's going to raise the roof, So we've got a gable this way, and you're widening it, so then to create the peak, you're going to have to have a peak that goes higher. This is the lower slope peak, which is the dormer, may I have the elevation again, please? So that's a lower slope peak, and then we just met it with, this is the elevator addition here. We just met it with a gable that's going in the other direction, and that is not the same height, but this is sort of keeping the style of the house in common with what it was originally, trying to keep it beautiful among all the other neighbors, because this is, again, a charming little community with houses that have been nicely designed, and so trying to keep the charm of the original gable, yet give the Verone's height on that second floor, which is here. That meant that roof got a little bit higher. And I have to say, when we designed it, the maximum height of buildings was 35 feet. This is only at 34'6". So if we do get that 15% increase, that is within that 15%.
And this building is constrained by the fact that the whole bottom floor, I think you explained,
Yeah.
is useless.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. They can't do anything but park cars or use it for storage. It's all floodplain.
I have one other question about the FAR. In your opinion, as an expert in architecture, is the strict imposition of the FAR in a situation like this something that constrains you as an architect from designing something that is like suitable for human habitation and what people consider to be normal spaces in use?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
It is, because I don't know if you remember, but I've designed a lot of houses down in Breakwater Village. Those are meant for summer habitation. They're meant for people to be spending most of the day outside. You know, they're going to be at the beach. They're going to be on their patios. Those houses have tiny, tiny rooms, and that FAR constrains the size of these houses. As much as I agree with Narragansett keeping the character of the town and the village intact, and keeping the buildings a reasonable size for the lot, there are some places, like in this case, where we've got an already small lot with a lot of constraints on it, and adding even more FAR because of the fact that they happen to have, you know, quite a lot of space that's not even usable for their lot, for sizing their building. It starts to restrict the designs that I can make. And I try to get every single square inch out of these houses. But this one I just couldn't keep under the FAR.
To follow up on on Keith's question, the bottom floor is pretty much unusable.
Exactly.
Is that counted toward the FAR, though? No.
No.
So it's the two upper?
Right.
Okay. Okay. It's counted to height, right.
It's counted to height.
Correct. It's the height, and also you have to remember, you can't put any utilities down there, no mechanicals in that area. They all have to be up in the main portion of the house.
Which is, yeah, on the second floor.
One more question on FAR. If you were to use the gross lot, and then you get the
I think we
15%, is FAR within its?
No, I think we had it with the gross lot.
We did.
Without the 15%.
Yeah.
Not that
Yeah.
matters.
I'm just-
No, I
but-
Yeah. The other thing, and I don't know if Gail mentioned, is that this living space of this house, the main floor, is the second story. It's the upper story. So whatever you build up there gets pretty much incorporated, you know, into that space down below.
Good
So,
point, yeah.
yeah, I was just, it's kind of unusual. It's not where you'd have the main story downstairs and then be able to reduce the front, the top, the second story, because it's a, different living area.
So, I mean, to that point, Gail, that my colleague just made, so because the first floor is not usable,
Yes,
when you design this house, all of the mechanicals have to be placed in what would otherwise be living space.
exactly.
Right, which is making it more difficult for you to comply with these FAR restrictions.
That's true.
So this is a very unusual one compared to any ones that we've ever seen, in my opinion.
Yes, I think so.
Where
Yeah.
everything is being pumped into the living space,
Yeah.
which is limiting what you, well, FAR is limiting what you can design.
Yes, it is.
I think.
It is.
So I have the question, what's the slope, the pitch?
I think it's a, let me see. I'd say it's like a 4 and 12.
It's already a 4.
Yeah.
You can't even do that. That's going to
No.
destroy the visual.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to jump back to staff. So front yard setbacks are now back on the table.
I would say yes, because we're not sure we're going to keep the stairs under 3 feet wide.
Okay, just want to be clear. So it's back on the table, you need relief. Okay.
I think it looks better with that porch rather than the old one, which actually was a switchback set of stairs, which was why it was so wide. And I'm sorry, Wayne. Where's the thing? There it is. So it was a switchback within this area here, and that was the front porch there. So it came in to the side rather than here into the main living space. And so they're rickety. I have to say, it wouldn't be really attractive to leave those because they are rickety beach stairs.
You design what you need to design. I'm just making sure
Thank
that you're
you.
asking for relief that you need to be asking for. That's
Thank
all.
you.
No
I
worries.
appreciate it.
Yep.
And again, those
Okay.
are the only stairs that go up to the first floor.
While staff's discussing, is there any further questions from the council, from the board? Staff, anything you want to add here? No? Okay.
I just want to make sure staff doesn't need another look at everything with the new plan, or are we good?
I think, but I'm going to answer for you. I think the answer is yes.
Well, no,
Well,
so
we're
all I
designing
would
this
say
on the
is
fly here.
there have been a lot of numbers thrown around this
Yeah.
evening. I'm not sure. I know that some of the relief that's in the project summary is still relevant as it exists. Some of it may have been augmented with the last iteration of the site plan and possibly the FAR. So it's really the board's prerogative. If you're comfortable, I don't know, you would have to approve it as, if you're comfortable approving, we would still need to go back and work out what those numbers are. We can't tell you what the relief is right now.
So
We
my-
haven't looked at it.
My thought process here, for that very reason, is that we get through the testimony, continue this to the next meeting, so you guys have a chance to look at it and make sure we've got the coverage we need. You have the coverage, you know what the relief is that we need, and then we make that decision going at the next meeting.
That would be good. We can also refer to the plans that arrived this evening from Ms. Halleck, and then the revised site plan that came in from Ms. Sonder last Friday.
I wanted to say that really the changes on those plans are just the numbers. As the numbers keep changing,
Hey,
the
that
design.
makes
didn't
that makes a big difference to us. The numbers are key.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was the day I got the staff review, I brought in the plan, because last time we didn't get the report till 2 days before. This time it went out 10 days before, so I thought I had time. So
I understand.
I did submit that, and Ryan and I had spoken about this ahead of time, so we were pretty much on the
finish our presentation, I'd ask Mr. Barone or Ms. Barone to come up and just explain quickly what
course.
they need or what they need to do.
Okay, if you look at this one.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last.
Leslie Barone, V-A-R-O-N-E.
And I'm Robert J. Brown,
Sorry, Ms. Rourke, your first name again?
Leslie.
Leslie, thank you.
So the biggest thing about the house as it sits right now is the rooms are very, very small. The third bedroom, the closet space that's there is like a broom closet. It's literally a doorway and maybe, 3 or 4 feet wide. There's no way you're gonna put any clothing in there of any type, and there's just no storage. I don't know what the dimension of the room is, but it's the smallest of the 3, and it's tiny. So when we were there, our kids were babies at the time, and it didn't matter quite so much, but as time went on, we just couldn't stay there because we were just being squeezed. So because now my boys are 23 and 20, they're in college, one's at URI getting his master's, and the other's at Xavier, and he's a junior, and they're coming back and forth. So they like Xbox and this type of thing, and they don't like the movies that we like to watch, because she doesn't like the movies that I like to watch. I like things that blow up, But anyway, so that's the way we designed that room, with the top would be something that she and I would spend most of our time, and then the bottom, they would be free to do their thing if they had friends over, that type of thing. And our house in East Greenwich right now is like that. We have it's an old colonial, and we have double living rooms. So one's here, the kitchen's here, the second one's here, and they stay over there, and we stay over here, and it kind of works that way. So, and one thing I have to say is that I've often said that lot, it goes all the way to the water. I pay taxes on that lot for the whole lot, and I only can use so much. And, with this house being designed the way it is, we've been very respectful of the setback there for coastal and whatnot, and we've kept it nice and clean back there. And so that's basically, we need, and the storage there now it's minuscule. The closets and even the other bedrooms are real tiny. So with this design, we have more closet space. You know how that goes. Closet space is key. So basically, that's where we stand. We have that elevator in there because I'm 68. I know I look 48, but, we have that just in case. We could always maybe tweak that if we had to.
Yeah.
But after you go up the stairs to the top level with groceries and that type of thing, it gets a little tiring. So that's what we were debating on, and hopefully we can move back down there and stay as long as we can, as long as we're able.
Thank you.
You want to add anything?
No, I'm good. You do.
I talk a lot.
I just have one question. So
Yes.
one thing that we haven't addressed that's in the staff comments is that the, indicates 3 bedrooms and an office. The office could be considered a 4th bedroom,
Right.
and the applicant must either provide an additional 200 square feet of parking or increase the width of the door to 4 feet or greater with no doors, door jambs, or pocket doors into the office. And that's a condition that the staff has recommended. I don't know if you want to turn that into a bedroom?
Not at all.
So are you okay with the fact that there won't be a door on the office?
It's just a place for a desk. It's
Yeah.
really not,
Yeah.
we don't need another bedroom,
A desk.
a desk,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that would be one spot there that we could, accommodate
Yeah.
very readily.
Okay.
Yes.
It was just so that it wasn't part of the kids' room, just to kind of have a little division of that space. That's really all that was.
Okay.
Rather than have it upstairs, like you kind of conceal like the papers and
Yeah.
that type of thing. That's what we're looking for.
Absolutely no bedroom, though.
Yeah, no.
That's not-
And you're okay without putting a door on it? That's,
That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine.
yeah, okay.
I would say so.
Can I clarify something? Chris, you said that the condition was that if they were to use it as a bedroom, they'd have to have an additional parking space, but what's condition 2?
No, I said that to comply, so the comment above that, Ellen, I was reading out of that.
Okay.
The application as submitted indicates 3 bedrooms. To comply, the applicant must provide an additional 200 square feet or increase the width of the door to 4 feet or greater with no door jobs. You see that?
Okay, no, I
Yeah.
don't, but one of the conditions that staff is recommending is that no doors, door jambs, or pocket doors be allowed in the area marked office or family room, and that they shall not be used as a bedroom.
Right.
So that's the condition that I think we would be voting this with, I think, if that, right?
Yes, that's
Okay,
the condition.
Okay. I was confused.
Yeah, we had no intention of using that as a bedroom, so.
So I think it's pretty easy for us to change that. On the floor, so this is already a wide opening. We just take out that. And then this here can turn into a 4-foot opening. That's pretty easy to comply with.
And I just have a question. So that, you don't want a door because you're afraid it might be a 4th bedroom? Is that the reason?
That's the
Yes.
concern,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, I was just thinking, because we do have a dog that we do, right now what we do, we don't really crate him. We put him in our family room. We have one of those barn door, okay, fine, never mind.
Okay, any further questions from the board? I know there's no more statements from the Verones. Thank you. Okay, staff, do you want these changes to these changes submitted prior? So you have a chance to look at those as well? I think the answer is yes. So the answer is yes. We'll get there. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I think that question should be asked after we hear that their testimony's done, and any neighbor's testimony, and any abutters, and any opposition testimony, and then they'll be able to make a better decision at that point.
Thank you. Okay, so board's all set. Mr. Callahan, you're all set for now, okay? So, then is there any proponents, anyone that would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Thinking it's a no, I can't tell back there. I'm guessing it's a no? There are none. Is there anyone that'd like to speak opposed as an opponent?
Good evening. David Petracca, attorney for Stephanie and Grant Caldwell, who are butters across the street with Ruggiero, Brochu, and Petracca Law Firm, with offices in North Kingstown at 1130 10 Rod Road. We're not necessarily opposed, but we were here to essentially learn, see the new plans that have been presented this evening. Similar to some of the concerns that have been already raised, a lot of different numbers moving around. We just wanted to see what was being proposed.
Mm-hmm.
We're not against what we've seen visually. We'd like a chance to review what's been submitted this evening and in recent days. For instance, there was just a couple of clarifications on those side yard setbacks. The plans that we had showed a 5.4 feet, we'll say towards the northwest, and then in the northeast, I believe it said 3.5 feet. So just trying to get a handle on what relief is being granted. And we're overall satisfied with what we're seeing, but again, just want to make sure we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's on this. And if the board, for whatever reason, was inclined to move forward tonight as opposed to giving staff a chance to do things, we would just ask that any relief that's granted is in the plans submitted are enforced with strict compliance based on the testimony and evidence presented tonight. So if that's the way the board is going, it doesn't sound that way, but those are some of my concerns. I'm normally, let's say, behind the table for the cities and towns I represent, so I don't normally get to do the abutter work. So this is all new for me, or at least for the last 10 years, we'll say. So that was it from our perspective, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. Any further questions from the board at this point? Okay. So I'll ask now, staff.
We'd like a month.
So to next month?
If you
For
could
this
continue.
continue to next
That's your
month, and then
next
you can-
regularly scheduled meeting. There's a
get
lot of
these-
moving parts, I think. Things were introduced this evening. It sounds like we're,
And the opponents.
And then
have-
we can bring a clean report back to you next month that has, as I mentioned, refers to all of the most updated plans, the most updated relief, any other nuances that might have come up this evening.
Okay, and Ms. Petrarca can come to staff to get any information that's been already presented?
We're open 8:30 to 4:30,
Thank you.
normal business hours.
Okay. All right.
Or you can get it now.
All right, board. Good point.
When is the next?
So when the next meeting is the 19th of September? 19th?
Yes, it's September
So are we
19th.
Are we all going to be here?
I will be here.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, good, so we got a full
So
board.
motion to continue, and we're keeping the hearing open for
Yes.
any additional testimony or any.
Yep,
Move
I
on
understand.
To
Yep, okay.
continue to September 20th, you said?
19th.
19th.
Second.
Got a first and a second to continue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Huh? I just need to take a quick.
All right, we need a 5-minute break if we could. No, we need a 5-minute break. I'm not asking what we're saying, we're telling. Okay, so next up on the agenda is Chapman and Fairborn, Plat N, Lot 315, 44 Willow Ave. Mr. McGreen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jack McGreen for the applicant with law offices at 21 Garden City Drive, Cranston, Rhode Island, 02920. The applicants and owners are Henry Chapman and Louisa Fairborn. The property is located at 44 Willow Avenue and identified as Lot 315 on Assessors Plat N. Lot is located in R10 zone and has a lot area of 10,000.8 square feet. The proposed improvements consist of the removal of an existing side yard deck and an impervious driveway and walkway, the construction of a second-story addition with a covered deck, and the construction of a third-story addition with a covered deck, and finally replacing the existing impervious driveway with a walkway with 900 square feet of pervious driveway and walkway. The project meets the side yard, rear yard, lot coverage, softscape, hardscape. The floor area ratio request also falls within the jurisdiction of the building inspector under section 11.7 of the zoning ordinance to grant the modification as the proposed FAR is 2,980 square feet, and the 15% permits 3,105 square feet. So we're actually under the 15% modification if we went that direction. The proposed height of the building is 34.9 feet, and again, the 15% modification would permit the height of 34.5 feet. And those plans were actually designed before that change came into effect. Otherwise, you know, we would have reduced it by the 0.4 feet in order to comply with the 15%. But we had to come in here anyway, and so we didn't bother making that modification. Because you can't bifurcate the planning board with Wayne as the zoning officer. You got to go one direction or the other. So that's why we're here. The existing house is already within the front yard setback by 3.2 feet, and the application is seeking an additional 4.9 feet of relief for a total of 8.1 feet in order to construct a, if you could go to the next picture, do we have the front? One more. Do we have a nice picture on the front? Where is it? Yeah, where is it? Where's the, yes. See that right there, the front roof? That's really the sole purpose of coming here today. Otherwise, we probably would have gone the modification route, is they want to put that front entryway in there, a covered front entryway, and really it's, you know, for protection from the weather and for aesthetic purposes. So had we not wanted that, and they want that, we would have just gone the modification route and probably would have got it through, you know, because they meet everything under the old ordinance before we did that change to, you know, respond to the state's 15% rule. I have the applicants here. If you have any questions for them, they can come up and maybe talk to you about the plans. There is an elevator in there. They, you know, I think someday they want to use this perhaps as their retirement home, and like the previous applicant, it seems like everybody over 66 is putting in elevators these days. I wish I had one. So there are 4 bedrooms. Oh, there was a comment at the planning board. Basically, the entire living space is going to be going up to the 3rd floor. If you look at the 3rd floor, you'll see the living area. 2nd floor, there are some bedrooms. Right now, there's a kitchen on the 1st floor. The planning board raised some concerns about having a separate kitchen. Applicants are willing to do whatever they need to do to, even though Wayne said there's no rule against having a second kitchen, they have no problem taking out the stove or whatever they need to do. They're going to be living on that 3rd floor, and they have no intention of converting this property into a 2-family dwelling. That was never their intention. And they have an elevator going through the property, and it's open. With that being said, unless you have any questions for me, I can have the applicant come up and just, you know, tell them how they want to use the space and what their future plans are over the next few years.
Questions for Mr. Green from the board? Bring them up.
All right. Yeah, why don't you come up?
Louisa Fairborn, Fairborne.
Henry Chapman, Chapman.
Henry, if you want to maybe go back to the first floor, and you can, tell them what the house looks like presently, and, your reasons for, trying to improve your space. And here's a little pointer here if you need to. There we go. Oh, you can both have a pointer. We got 2 pointers. Oh, here's my pointer. There you go. Can you blow that up a little bit? Because I can't. Is that possible to just? Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Can we actually start somewhere else?
Yeah, you tell me.
Yeah, from the very beginning of the lot. We showed, yeah, right there.
There you go.
I want to talk about this in a bigger picture way, in a larger picture way, rather than small about this room and that room. That's all in the plans for you, and I think you've had that for some time now. I hadn't seen this view, and as I was sitting there looking, I thought to myself, once this place is built, it really isn't going to change the view very much from that perspective. And I think that's one of the things that we took into account as we built this. We thought this was a very, very respectful kind of design. And that one of the things that we were very conscious and aware of was keeping the lot coverage as close to the lot coverage that it is today. So the driveway that you see there is now asphalt, and that will not be asphalt. That'll be a pervious site, pervious ground. The addition is already there. There's a deck there, and we're just going to go on top of that deck and below that deck. So the actual space in the property that we use does not really increase from that. If it does, it's very marginal. And back here, there are steps. Those steps are all going away as well, and those are impervious. This project, just like the folks that you heard from before, is kind of a kind of love affair for us. We discovered Narragansett. We discovered Narragansett. That's right. That was us. But we came to Narragansett when we were in college. A friend of ours came up and was waiting.
My roommate.
Yeah, your roommate. And from that point, we fell in love with Narragansett. We bought our property 15 years ago. And this is the culmination of that planning. We're really looking forward to enjoying this in the years to come. And just as you said, people will get around this age. We're starting to plan for our second kind of chapter in life. And we have our first grandchild from Christmas Eve, 2023. Yay us. And we're looking to just enjoy this forever. So, do you have anything?
Yep. I just want to add that, so we've been here for about 15 years, not in this house. We were at a different location. And again, how we love being here. But it's also just the community, our neighbors, our neighborhood there, which we, love everyone there and respect them all. And, just want to improve our life, improve the community, because it's everybody, I think will appreciate that our house will help their properties also increase their value. So, we're here just to try to do something for ourselves, our family, and for our community.
Thank you. Board, any questions?
The only thing I did want to point out before I forget is, you'll notice a sight line here. I did go out there. I had a picture. I don't know if I did send in a couple of pictures. I don't know if that made it to the slideshow. From this direction, you'll see, bringing that overhang out, just, you know, the 3 feet, whatever, 4 feet, doesn't impact the sight line of anybody turning onto any side roads. It's not a corner lot, so there wouldn't be any adverse impact to, you know, moving a little bit closer to that front yard setback.
What's the setback right now?
The setback is, well, it's within, let me see, the house is already within the front, it's within the setback by 3.2 feet, and the setback requirement is,
3.2.
what's the setback on a, it's a setback on an R10? It's, I did the calculation here, hold on. Existing, what is the setback? The setback, well, the setback is 29. Proportion, yeah, it's 29 feet. That's without the 15%. The 15% would be 24.65 feet.
Got it.
And they are 3.2 feet already within that setback.
Within that.
So they're looking for another 4.9 feet.
Got it.
To bring
Thank
that
you.
out. So that's how you get
So
to the
that's-
8.1 feet.
And that's the depth of the overhang? The
Yes, the
4
depth is 4, if you bring, there's probably a measurement there, I think it's 4
can't read that from here.
the 4.9 feet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Jack, in the staff comments, quoted, staff surmises that there are potential alternatives to reducing the dimensional relief required in approval of this application. I think to address both the FAR and the height variance.
Well, like I said, prior to the change in the ordinance, that 15%, we're within the 15%. We're actually less than that 15%. So had they not amended the ordinance to try and have people come in and ask for an extra 15%, we wouldn't even be here today. So they're not asking anything above and beyond what everybody else has in the neighborhood. Their height's less. The FAR would be fine too, under the own ordinance, but for the fact that we're here today asking for the front yard setback, we wouldn't be here. If we just said, forget the 4-foot overhang, we'd be able to get a modification without even being before you today. If you understand my rationale.
Well, I mean, I think the modification, as I understand it, is still subject to approval or denial.
No, it's not. No, it's my understanding is that you have to send notice out to the immediate abutters, and if you don't get the objection, then Wayne would approve. That's my understanding of how it works.
For the 15% modification,
Right.
yeah, it does require an ad in the newspaper, direct abutter notification after 14 days. If there's no response, no appeals of that request, then it would be granted by my department. 5% is allowed outright, but the 15% requires the ad and the butters.
And to add to that, Wayne has to make a finding that it's not injurious to the neighborhood, whatever that request is. So it's not, there is some building official discretion also on top of that.
But, I mean, the mental gymnastics you have to go through with the math to get back to the 15%, which really puts you right back to, actually puts you a little bit less, because the height used to be 35 feet, and then they reduced everything by 15% to prevent people from coming in and making the ask. Now, the height is really only 34.6 inches or 9 inches. So it doesn't get you completely back to the 35 feet, but close. I think it's 4 inches. So, is it 4 inches? 6 inches. So,
Jack, the overhang is covered, right? It looks like
covered.
it's,
Yeah, it looks, because it has that architectural feature on it, like slatted, but it is solid.
okay.
You might be able,
And
yeah,
that's-
see, it's, if you can blow that
Oh, I
up a
can see,
little.
yeah, I can see the bottom.
Yeah, it's solid.
So, and that's just to protect coming in the front door,
Right.
essentially.
It's a, overhang for the front door. It's just an architectural feature, and they're here for that.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board? Nope.
Just
Good.
one other question, Jack.
That's
So,
yes.
condition, recommended condition two,
Let me see, comments, what page is that on, 3?
page 3.
2. Recommended, page 3, is it? Yes, did we have, that came up in the, could you just come up one second? That came up in the meeting at the planning board. Was there a door that they wanted us to remove that was on the plan? I can't recall. Was there, was there? I can't, Jill, do you remember?
Yeah, I can clarify. On the plan that's shown right here, door, it's labeled D3, I believe. We thought that the stairs were going in that direction. Turns out the stairs are going in this direction. So we thought the stairs going up to the upper levels were obstructed, therefore making this singled out as a potential additional living space. That was clarified in the planning board that this door is in fact a closet, I believe, and that is not obstructing the upper level.
Yeah, okay, now, yep.
For the egress, no, but if you wanted to still consider the single family,
Yeah, that's right.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay, in the audience, is there anyone that'd like to speak in favor of this proposal? As a proponent, please step up. Says Mr. McGree moves. Proponents have to come up, sir.
Oh.
Thank you.
I do. Please state your name and spell your last. Norman Ricard, R-I-C-A-R-D. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. My house is 112 feet behind that property. What I'm concerned about is, I understand it's going to be 4 bedrooms. Is that right?
It is going to be,
So in the town, 4 bedrooms means that there can be 2 people per bedroom, so there could be 8 people living in the house. Is that right?
yes.
Okay.
Sir, just so,
Go ahead.
sir, so this is, you're allowed to comment, but and you can certainly ask the board questions, but they don't have to answer you, so if you could make your comments, and then any questions that they wish to, they can hold that to the end, because you're asking legal questions, which frankly may or may not have anything to do with zoning, but so you can say whatever you want, but frankly, they don't have to answer you.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, this is the first time that I'm 85 years old, so I might be making some mistakes.
No
So I don't know if I have a question who I should ask. So you're telling me I shouldn't ask the board?
You have the right to ask any question you wish.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Let me ask you a question first, though. It sounds like you're an opponent. You're,
I'm sorry?
it sounds like you're against this proposal.
Well, I have some questions that I
Okay,
need
okay.
before I, tell
Before you get there, I got it.
What I'm afraid of, if it's 4 bedrooms, and you can have 8 people living there, and if it's turned into, and I know it's not gonna be done right now, into a rental, then you could have 8 students living in that house, 110 feet away from my property. No?
I can answer that question. Under the new statute, the new statute, state law, it is, if they're not related to each other, it is 1 person per bedroom for unrelated people. That's the new law.
So that's a change then from what the town was saying before.
Correct, it just went into effect.
So if they're non-related, it can be 1 person per bedroom?
Correct, up to 5. That's the new updated law.
Up to 5 bedrooms?
Up to
people.
5 bedrooms.
Thank you, I didn't know that. Thank you, I appreciate that. The other question that I have is, in looking at the schematics of this property, it's beautiful, there's no doubt about it. But there are no other properties in that area that are 3 stories at 3 levels in that I know of in all those streets around there. And I'm just wondering whether this will open the door to having a lot more properties being built up to that height and to having 3 levels with 4 bedrooms. I personally don't know of any in those smaller streets in that area. So what I'm saying is it really conducive to the area of the properties that are built there now? I don't think it is. So those are my concerns. I appreciate your time. You've answered some questions that I was unaware of. So thank you, I appreciate that. But I am against building a 4-bedroom house. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else want to speak in favor of this proposal? Hearing none, is there anyone who'd like to speak against as an opponent? Hearing none. Oh,
Gertrude Rickard, R-I-C-A-R-D. I have a concern about a second kitchen. I mean, wouldn't that entail another family kind of moving in there, having 2 families in one house? I mean, why do you need 2 kitchens, 2 full kitchens? I can understand if you want to have a grill or any of that kind of stuff, but why would 2 full kitchens be necessary in that house? That's my question. If I could
Thank you.
have an answer, I'd be happy.
I'm not sure if you heard the testimony, but we're agreeing to remove that kitchen. Okay.
we did hear that, yes, we heard
Okay,
that.
yeah, that no problem removing the kitchen.
As a matter of fact, I did hear that, but I just want to clarify.
Okay. And then just a point of observation that it's already an existing 4-bedroom home.
Thank you. Okay.
I said it was
Please.
already an existing 4-bedroom home?
Thank you, Jack. Does anyone else like to speak? Okay, Jack, any last words, Jack? No. You good? Any questions from the board before we close the public hearing? I have one question from staff. Ashley Wayne. What is required to remove a kitchen? What needs to be done?
Typically, what we've done in the past is have the stove removed, have the electrical outlet removed if it was a plug-in electrical, or the gas line removed if it was fed by gas, to totally remove the kitchen stove. Other than that, I mean, it's nothing unlike a wet bar in a house where somebody could have a sink and some cabinetry. So we felt as though the removal of the stove was the one thing that we could do.
Stove and/or its supply, electric or propane, or just remove the stove itself?
Remove the stove and remove the feed for
The
that,
feed.
either the electrical feed
Yep.
and/or the gas feed.
Thank you. Your client's okay with that? I'm getting.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay.
Electric.
Okay, if nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. I have a first and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. What says the board?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, with respect to project summary dated August 9th, 2024, Chapman Fairborn, Tax Assessor's Plat N, Lot 315. Location 44 Willow Avenue. I would move that we accept the following findings of fact for the record. Facts A through G of the project summary. I'd also like to incorporate the information submitted as part of the application and the testimony of the following individuals who spoke as representatives and are experts of the applicant. Jack McGreen, attorney for the applicants. The applicants themselves, Henry Chapman and Louisa Fairborn. And would also note that we had nobody that spoke in favor of the proposal. We had two neighbors, Norman Ricard and Gertrude Ricard, who raised some concerns with respect to the proposal, but I don't think objected based on the questions that they were asked, that they asked, and the answers that were given. That concludes my findings of fact.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, with respect to project summary Chapman Fairborn tax assessor's plat and lot 315, we have a request for relief from section 6.4 dimensional regulations for an 8.1 front yard setback variance. A request for relief from the floor area ratio or a floor area ratio variance of 0.028 or 280 square feet, and a building height variance of 4 feet 9 inches. I would move to grant the relief requested based on the evidence which is part of the record and the testimony that we heard tonight, that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not to the general characteristics of the surrounding area, and is not due to a physical or economic disability of the applicant. I think we heard testimony tonight from, as part of the application, that under the former ordinance, this relief would not have been required, and that it is, it falls within the 15% requirement that could have been granted by the building inspector. I don't think that the granting of the variance will alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan of the town of Narragansett upon which the zoning ordinance is based. The hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant. I would also note that I believe, based on the testimony we heard tonight, that the hardship that will be suffered by the owner if the variance is not granted amounts to more than a mere inconvenience, meaning that the relief sought is minimal to a reasonable enjoyment of the permitted use to which the property is proposed to be devoted. I would propose that we grant the relief requested subject to the following conditions. Striking, that are part of the project summary, striking condition 1 in its entirety, modifying condition 2 to indicate that the lower level should not be used as an additional living unit and the dwelling shall remain a single-family use. So striking the first part of that sentence. Including conditions 3 through 8 and adding a condition 9 that indicates that the stove on the existing stove on the first floor shall be removed as well as the electrical outlet that feeds that stove. And that completes my motion of approval.
Second.
Planning board recommendations? Do you want to include planning board? Page 3.
Yeah. I think we addressed that. Wayne, do you think we need to include that condition?
No, sir, the planning board recommendations, that's all I'm asking for.
Oh, as far as what they recommended, sorry. Yeah, I should have addressed that in the findings of fact. I'll note that the planning board received the information provided by the applicant and reviewed the plans and supplementary documents during the planning board meeting on Tuesday, July 16th. The planning board found the application to be complete, and the planning board found the application to be in conformance with the land use component of the comprehensive plan of Narragansett. The planning board recommended the application to the zoning board of review for approval with conditions 1 through 6 above, and adding an additional condition that the building official reviews the first floor plan and determines what is required to be removed from the existing kitchen for it no longer to be deemed a kitchen. I think we've addressed that, so I don't think we need to add that to the motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Good luck.
I should have put that in the facts.
Yeah, it should have been in the-
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm rusty.
Okay, so you don't want anything from here on the public hearing, right? We can close the public hearing at this point. We can close. So we can close the public hearing for the rest of this meeting. We don't need the public hearing to be open.
Yep, so you just closed the other public hearing. You want to adjourn the meeting?
No. I didn't close the public hearing.
Oh.
We didn't close the public hearing. We just,
We've closed that public hearing, so now you're just in a meeting.
Yeah, we're just in an open meeting.
You're just in an open meeting right now.
understand.
Yeah,
But, okay, fine.
yep, okay. Are you,
I'm good.
all right.
I am good.
All right. So last month, you had asked staff to prepare an update for the applicable changes to you folks on the zoning board of what's occurred in the last 2 years. So you'll see some slides behind me. I have a copy in front so I can look at you when I talk. I thought first we would go through the changes that occurred in 2023. So the General Assembly changed the law last June of 2023. They gave municipalities about 6 months to respond to that, or not. The town of Narragansett did respond. We made all of our changes, or at least 95% of them at first pass before the end of the year. Those changes from 2023 took effect on January 1st. This last go around with the General Assembly, they made additional changes. Some of them were corrections to errors they had made last year. Some of them were brand new. They provided 0 lead time. They were all effective upon passage. So I'm going to start off with 2023 and try to hit just the highlights, the ones that many of them you've seen just this evening. But the first one is the substandard lots of record, so 2023. These are already in your ordinance, either in section, chapters 1117 and 1118, which I believe were emailed to everyone and are also online for anyone else. Substandard lots, so in a case where a lot is in an R10 zone but is only 6,000 square feet in area, then it gets a sub-modified setbacks based on the substandardness of the lot. So in that case, they would get a 40% reduction in their setbacks and a 40% increase in their lot coverage. The next one is the requirement for the provision of modifications for dimensional variances, 15% or less, 5% up to, the law actually allowed up to 25%. The town of Narragansett It required a minimum of 15, but allowed up to 25. The town of Narragansett took the minimum and made it their maximum, so it's a 15% allowance. And that's with the notification, so from 5.1% to 15%, as Mr. Pimentel explained to you earlier. And then less than 5% less or less, there's no notification required. And that's already happening. The next one is that the law allows a permitted use as adaptive reuse of a commercial structure for high-density residential. So one of the things that comes to mind is an old mill, an old factory, something like that. Town of Narragansett doesn't have too many of those. I haven't seen one yet, but there's still a chance. The ordinance revises the standard for the merger clause. So what that means is that substandard lots of record that were historically merged to meet the underlying zoning. So 2 5,000 square foot lots contiguous in the same ownership were merged by zoning to get to the minimum 10,000 square feet. If they were lots of record, the owner can petition the town for an unmerger, and they need to meet certain provisions. They need to show a 200-foot radius. They need to, as a Class 1 survey, they need to show that that lot, more than 50% of the lots are greater than the lot they're trying to, or smaller than the lot they're trying to unmerge. And then they can unmerge by right, as opposed to doing a subdivision. The next one that directly affects you folks, and I know you picked it up tonight, the standards of review, the standard least relief necessary has been removed. The standard for realizing greater financial gain has been removed, as well as the standard for comprehensive plan compliance for special use permits. That was also removed. And they attempted to expand the mere inconvenience standard, and that's in your, that is in all of your reports when you receive them. You'll see the new 2024 standards. We'll try to let you know. We do have a couple of stragglers still from 2023. And then the biggest one in section or chapter 1117, and you'll see the bulk of the 87 pages of changes, are the special use permit criteria. So the law required municipalities to come up with specific and objective criteria for every special use permit in your table of use regulations. So we did that. We went through our entire table of use regulations and we looked at some things that we want to just permit outright, some things that we want to just prohibit outright, and everything else outside of, I think, man-made ponds, we have special use permit specific and objective criteria for. And then some things that we didn't have anything for, so solar and wind turbines and things like that. So those are the big changes. Let me just double check here, make sure. Oh, nope, there's more. So we go to the second slide. There we go. So notification. This doesn't affect you folks, but you should know they went from, used to be, for those of you who've been on the board for a while, used to be green cards, return receipt, and then it went to just certification, and then it went to PS 3817, and now it's first class mail. So it got a little bit easier. We do have to post in 2 sites now, so the town of Narragansett posts here at the clerk's office, we post in the library, and we have to notify on the website and other entities, neighboring towns and water department if need be.
So
All of
no-
that.
No more confirmation, just.
Nope, they still have to do the affidavit.
You do.
But, yep, for instance, tonight, both Mr. McGreen and Mr. Callahan provided, the affidavit prior to the opening of the public hearing. They have to, and anyone would have to provide that, it doesn't have to be an attorney, prior to. And they still have to provide the radius map and the abutters list, but the mailing is first class as opposed to return receipt or certified or PS
So
3817.
this is attesting to the fact that they sent these
They are saying they sent it.
Got it.
Yes. So that took effect immediately. So chapter 1118, which were revisions to the dimensional regulations. So you received that as well. The planning board, in response to the concern about the modification, they took it upon themselves to go through the entire ordinance and adjust the dimensional regulations where they thought it would be detrimental to the town. And so now we have these unfamiliar setbacks. For me, I can rattle off the setbacks, you know, in old R10, used to be, you know, 25, 10, 20, but now it's 29, 22%, 12, and 24 or something. So, right, so it's just a little bit getting used to on that. And then the new law installed procedures for unified development review, and this actually, it sort of affects you in an inverse way. So for projects that would have otherwise come to you as a subdivision, a relief through a subdivision, project 5-lot subdivision needs, you know, lot area relief or lot width relief, something like that. All of that now is actually done through the planning board called Unified Development Review. So the planning board sits as the zoning board in that instance. So anytime there's a major minor land development or and it was always that way with comprehensive permits, it's that decision, that relief is granted through the planning board as part of that the one-stop shop. And there are other provisions that changed with that, but so you won't be seeing those types of things anymore. You won't be the sandwich in the middle of a subdivision anymore. All right, thank you. All righty, so we're going to move on to the 2024 legislative changes. So we, staff, legal, and our planning board looked at, I'm referring to it by Senate bill, so that way, because it's still pretty fresh. We do have some drafted changes, but that's still in flux right now. So I just wanted to go through the Senate bills as opposed to referring to them as ordinance changes because they haven't been changed in our ordinance. While they are the law of the land, they're not changed in our ordinance as of yet. So Senate Bill 3148, that's the FAR, removes basements from counting toward the FAR calculation. So the staff had proposed to change the definition of basement, to change the definition of cellar, because cellar refers to basement, and then changing the definition of basement to cellar in the town under the FAR. So right now, we refer in, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Brunetti.
No worries. The question is basement finished or unfinished? Doesn't count.
Yeah, so basement is a very specific definition. So it says it's 4 feet or more below outside adjacent grade, and a less than 4 feet, and then a cellar is more than 4 feet. And so, right.
I would thought the opposite, but okay.
Yes. Yeah, that was a question up at the General Assembly. I know the planners brought it up. I know it was brought up on the floor, and it was steadfast that it was basement and not cellar. Okay.
So, okay, so cellar's still included. Cellar.
7-foot underground, that counts towards what?
Yes.
Finished.
Finished, yep.
No, finished or unfinished?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Or
Under
unfinished.
seven, under
But
seven.
think raised ranch. Raised ranch is a basement, but may not count for FAR.
But a standard colonial with a 7.5-foot basement, finished or not, cellar, sorry, finished or not, counts. Wow. That's interesting.
Yes.
That's a complicated your part question.
Okay, so moving on. House Bill 7062, accessory dwelling unit. So this is the law of the land now. So it changes the definition of accessory dwelling unit, and it sets parameters and prohibitions on the regulations. So now ADUs are allowed by right in 3 different circumstances. So on a property that is owner occupied and that the ADU will serve someone with a disability or a family member, on any property that's over 20,000 square feet in gross area, or, I'm drawing a blank on the third one. Thank you. If it's within an existing, an existing structure. So an existing home or an existing accessory structure, an existing detached or attached garage on any size lot. So if you're on a 10,000 square foot lot and you have a detached garage, you could turn that into an ADU. You can't expand, correct. And there are parameters around that too. So ADUs, you're limited to 1 per lot. You're limited to no more than 2 bedrooms, and they can't be more than 60% of the size of the primary dwelling. And there's numerical values associated with that, but really the bigger number is 60%. You can't, the towns can't, they can't be less than, we can't say they can be less than 900 square feet, but right now, the number's 60%. So if you had a 1,000 square foot home, you could have a 600 square foot ADU.
It cannot be used as a short-term rental.
Right, can't be used as a short-term rental. Mhm.
So like, on my property, I have a, for lack of a better word, it was a barn that was built, it's new, but it's like 30 feet by 30 feet. I think it's bigger than our house, and nothing's ever been in it but my surfboard collection. So, I mean, that could be converted into our, like, if my wife and I want to just have a ground, whatever floor, you know, like, so I don't need an elevator. I'll all stay on the first floor.
You can turn it into a unit that you rent out year-round.
Right. So there are other provisions with that. The bedroom count still kicks in if you're on septic, you know what I mean? If you're on septic, you need to, if you're maxing out at 5 bedrooms or more, then there are other things that still trigger. FAR still kicks in. Mm-hmm. Parking, right. Oh, FAR still. Oh, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
An accessory dwelling is different than an accessory structure, still.
Yes, I mean, I have an accessory structure on my property. I would not dwell in it. Yes.
Same.
So, and the intent behind this was what? I mean, I know I'm asking the obvious.
More affordable housing.
Just to create
Yeah, more housing.
Yeah, more housing, not more affordable.
Yep, just more housing.
I mean, there's no rent restrictions, so if
Yeah.
you wanna, with a 30 by 30, I mean, you'd probably get $3,000 a month, you know what I'm saying? It's that,
Yeah.
it's just more units,
Gotcha.
more livable units.
Go back a slide.
Sure.
So that second bullet of the text.
Mm-hmm.
Affordable accessory dwelling.
Oh, okay, thank you. So once upon a time, the town prohibited accessory dwelling units, and there was an attempt by Mike and others to encourage affordable dwelling units. And so there was an entire section put into the zoning ordinance that if you had an unpermitted ADU on site, you could, and you wanted to keep it, you could come in under this affordable provision. It's no longer relevant because you can have an ADU by right. And it doesn't have to be affordable. You can certainly make it affordable, but it doesn't have to be affordable. So this whole section served a purpose at the time, but is no longer relevant.
I'm curious as to how many applications you've gotten since this change.
Well, I wouldn't even see them, actually.
It's fairly new.
Mhm.
We're getting a lot of inquiries.
Yeah.
about it.
Right, it just took effect the end of June. So, yeah, well, so the next one is House Bill 7382, that's the definition of a household. I didn't provide the definition up here, but essentially, as Steve pointed out earlier, it is 1 person per bedroom with a maximum of 5 unrelated people. So at some point, we will change our definition.
Say that again?
1 person per bedroom,
Up to 5.
up to 5,
Unrelated?
unrelated.
That was kind of put in as a challenge to the 4-student ordinance.
Well, they used the word unrelated again, so if you have a 3-bedroom house, you can have 3 people, 4, 4, 5, 5. 6-bedroom house, only 5,
Yep, okay.
so.
But household definition, if I have a family of 4 living in it, it's still a household.
That's family, it's related.
But they're related, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you good? All righty. So next round was House Bill 7949. So this came under the guise of subdivision regulations, but then they snuck in some zoning enabling changes too. Specifically, they removed the Newton clause, which allowed us, so in section 12.4 right now, the town allows front, side, and rear yard setback variances for residential uses, only if those setbacks don't allow you to get closer to an environmental feature. So those are the only 3 setbacks that were allowed. So you'll recall if you were near a coastal feature and you're asking for an FAR variance, we'd say, okay, that triggers the use variance standard. They finally edited the law correctly this year. They attempted last year, but they got it right this year. and they removed that, that connection. So now if you have a special use permit and a variance together, that both of those forms of relief are reviewed on their own merits, so we don't combine them. Not to say that that use variance standard wouldn't kick in if it was a true use variance, but not in this case anymore. So that text of revision would include that calculation. So they also revised the ordinance to try to clarify the substandard lots of record text from last year, because different municipalities were doing the calculation differently. The one that I gave to you earlier, in an R10 zone, a 6,000 square foot lot would be 40% deficient. We calculated it that way, which is the way that the law was meant to be calculated, but not all municipalities saw it that way. So the General Assembly thought they would put in some examples in the law, which is, they put in, so by way of example in the law. But we were already doing it the way that they intended it to be done. 12.4, the special use permit applicability, I just mentioned the Newton law. Now they're not reviewed in conjunction to bring them up to that higher standard, but they would be reviewed on their own merits individually. And then development plan review doesn't affect you folks directly, but they did make some changes to section 17.3 for development plan review. That wouldn't come to you folks. All right, I think this is the last one. House Bill 7980, manufactured home definitions. They changed the definition for manufactured homes, so we're gonna add that definition into our, into section 2.2 of the ordinance. It should be noted, just this definition and the definition of household, no, not households. There was another one. It's escaping me right now. Basement, thank you. Basement and, and manufactured homes are already both defined in section 4.7 of our ordinance with respect to FEMA. So there's a FEMA definition for basement and manufactured homes, and now there's a state definition. So the clarification for that is to say, as used in this section, in section 2.2, because a basement from FEMA's perspective is anything that's a below adjacent grade outside. Not how far below, but anything below, right? And manufactured homes, it's very, the definitions are different. So that was the attempt at clarification. So those are the big changes that are coming in 2024. They didn't change it, they refer to, so the manufactured home definition refers to the definition in the, what is it, the Code of Federal, the US Code of Federal Regulations. And it's something with the chassis that has, you know, it's a really long definition, I just referred to it. And they wanted to put that in there because there were some provisions about manufactured homes. We allow manufactured homes in this town. Some towns may not, so it was already allowed in our town, so it doesn't really affect us, but we're just trying to comply with the definition. Sure.
Thank you.
No, they are the law of the land, but it has not been, we've not had a public hearing with the town council, and it has not been incorporated into our zoning ordinance yet.
So does that mean we will not be hearing any of the 2024 definitions? Or?
No, you could, or not. I guess that's the question.
What's your question? I think you have to. Yeah,
We have to enforce it, yeah.
We would comply,
We would comply.
with state law, and they would just reference, rather than referencing the ordinance section, they would just reference state law. We're way ahead of, I mean, there's some towns that don't even have the 2023 stuff in yet. So.
I want to say good job. Good job, a lot harder.
So that was it. That's, I mean, as new things come up, I'm happy to bring it to you.
So are we going to hear a lot of these 15% arguments like we heard tonight? I mean, is that-
Likely,
Yeah.
because it would have been approved 9
Yeah.
months ago.
Yeah, so the problem, it's not the problem, but if you need one variance that doesn't fit into your 15%,
Then you got to come
then you
anyway.
have to come for all of them. You can't bifurcate it
Oh.
and have.
Okay, that's what they were saying. I didn't understand that.
That's what Jack was saying.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're here for, they're here for everything.
Okay.
chances you ask, we're gonna hear more of those.
Yeah.
And on those 15%, if we do get an appeal, it'll come before.
Yeah, it comes, yeah, so if there's some, if a butter objects, then they would come to you guys as a normal variance anyway, so that's why you're hearing it as a normal variance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what's happening is, like tonight, we heard it a couple of times, so there was, well, I don't really need to be before you because I could have done this before Wayne, but I need these other things, so we're still tasked with
Yeah,
deciding whether
whatever
to
they're
grant the
asking
var.
for on each of them, you're
Right.
still tasked for.
Yeah, okay.
Let me bring up FAR for a
I
second.
didn't know what the hell they were talking.
Yeah, no, I was confused too.
So let me bring up FAR for a second. You heard the words tonight, the town's reluctant to issue FAR variances. That's not a thing, right? We can't be reluctant to do anything based on what we're seeing.
No, you look at the standards of review. If the project meets the standards of review, if you can make findings that the project has met the standard, then the relief could be granted.
So we can consider it like any other variance. I mean, it's obviously a variance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just
Yeah,
any other
I mean,
variance.
it's just another variance. That's my point, actually. So,
Well, and plus because the applicants aren't bound by least relief necessary any longer, it's really changed that analysis, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think the FAR is the newest, it's sort of the big hook. It was one of the contemplated action items in the comprehensive plan was to look at putting FAR in, and it serves a purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
it very much like Breakwater Village, it controls the size of a house on a small lot. So small lots get small houses, and bigger lots can have bigger houses. That was the intention.
logical.
It's a new one, and it appears to be working, so, you know, Gail's a perfect example. She does great work, and she will make things fit.
Yes, you can.
Yep.
And they look nice. Anything else for the board?
Jill, I know you wanted to do the template tonight, but can we do that next month?
Does it still say draft?
It says draft. I used it again tonight.
Great job, thank you. Whatever your changes are, just send them over.
Yeah, no, I actually just had a couple questions for you, but we can do those one-on-one. We don't need to, yeah.
Okay.
I have some original
So the
exhibits here.
agenda says action required, or does it continue?
No, that's not she gave a couple. We each had these.
We're going to have a full
These didn't get marked.
short of the.
No, she said she didn't need to mark those. We marked two exhibits. And Heidi has them.
Appointed yet, we'll have a full board.
Yeah, you should have a full board next meeting. Yep. Yeah, nope, put it on.